Carbuncles, Bounders, Bone Keepers, the Kirs Guard, Kirs and Snipers, Kirs and Brutes, Kirs and Crawlers, and Lost Divers. What do they all have in common? Well, they all seemingly originate from the Depth's second layer. When Layer 2 was first added to Deepwoken, there was something electrifying about encountering a whole new selection of enemies when the stakes were highest. While we've become familiar with these enemies over the last couple years since Layer 2's introduction, I'm going to try and revive that feeling of unexplored territory by attacking from a different angle, the lore behind each enemy in both floors of the second layer. I'll dissect all the lore behind each enemy in order, starting with floor 1, and then moving to floor 2 once I'm done with the first. You ready? Okay. Remember to like and subscribe if you like Deepwoken lore content, and without further ado, let's get straight into the lore behind all the enemies in Layer 2. So let's begin with the Carbuncle. Now, the Carbuncle is likely the first enemy you're going to encounter when you arrive in Layer 2. The first thing you'll notice is that they're humanoid. Very much so, but they don't walk when spotting you. They walk with an awkward inhuman crawl, supported by two parasitic legs sprouting from the growth on their backs. While the Carbuncle itself isn't exceptionally dangerous, it's meant as a warning. It's a premonition, making it clear that the fate of the Carbuncle could happen to you, that it likely will happen to you. So, what causes a Carbuncle to spring to life like this? Well, clearly the Carbuncle isn't an organism that can exist on its own. In fact, the Carbuncle itself isn't the corpse it's possessing, rather the disgusting growth on the corpse's back. Once you delve deeper into the second layer, you'll learn the truth behind the snow you've been treading up to onto that point. The snow on the second layer isn't snow at all. It's parasites, cleverly disguised as snow so unsuspecting players tread on them. You can burn away these parasites with specific lanterns created by the Ignition Union, but that's about it. When you build up more than 5 parasites on your body, they pop and you are instantly gripped. What you don't see, however, is what happens after the parasites kill you. If you want to know what happens, well, just look at these diver husks. They're half-formed carbuncles, and they too have succumbed to the parasite. However, the parasite, after killing you, puppeteers your body, using you as a vessel. Ironically, these divers first arrived to conquer the second layer, only to be conquered by parasites themselves. With time, these diver husks will fully form into carbuncles, the whispers of their humanity long gone, replaced with the cold stench of rotting flesh and mucus. That, my friends, is the lore behind the Carbuncle. Moving swiftly onwards, the first enemy you'll encounter within Layer 2 that has a genuinely high chance of wiping you is the Bounder. This thing is massive, looking like it got ripped straight out of a Silent Hill game. They boast 6 eyes, elongated human-like arms with elbows, sharp claws, and a mouth that looks like it was ripped straight from a megalodon. Bounders operate entirely based on territory. Bounders have hunting grounds, albeit without known limits. It's possible that Bounders mark their hunting grounds similar to dogs, but there's really no way to know. When a Bounder does spot you after you enter its hunting grounds, however, best run away. In fact, it's almost like Bounders evolved to catch escaping prey, as they boast a lethally far leap. If they manage to land on top of you, they'll slash at you with their claws. They'll also frequently charge at you head-on in order to knock you off your feet. While these creatures are similar to megalodons in a number of ways, they're also quite different, almost like they've evolved to become particularly lethal. Perhaps Bounders evolved from megalodons, perhaps a megalodon fell from the first layer into the second, shifting form into something else, a Bounder. However, that's woefully unconfirmed. However, if we do want to delve into evolution theory, which you guys know is my favorite if you're a channel regular, Bounders actually behave like frogs. Their pounce is eerily similar, so perhaps there's something there. But that's about everything we know about Bounders besides the Bounder tip incident. If you don't know what the Bounder tip incident is, I'll let this image speak for itself. On second thought, let's move on. The third and last unique enemy you'll encounter in the second layer is the Bone Keeper. The Bone Keeper is also the first and only enemy whose death is required to progress onwards through Layer 2's first floor, except Chaser, of course. The Bone Keeper itself is essentially Layer 2's enforcer, with clearly telegraphed moves that deal a lot of damage. The Bone Keeper is capable of charging at you, throwing bones and the like. If you really think about it, it seems quite out of place, doesn't it? A creature made from bones in a layer filled with organic horrors like the parasites and the Bounders. Well, that's because it doesn't belong here, not on Layer 2's first floor at least. See, while the aesthetics of Layer 2's first floor don't align with the Bone Keeper's design, the second floor's style of enemies certainly match. In fact, every enemy bar the Lost Divers in New Kirsa are made from bone. Well, would you look at that? So, we've got a Kherson, the race native to the second floor, creeping up to the first floor. Here's the kicker though. While there are the Khersons existing in Furfire, they're docile and are capable of speech. The Bonekeeper doesn't talk, let alone act peaceful, so it can be safe to assume that it's been tampered with. Here's my theory. Once the Khersons retreated into the second floor and were mind-controlled by Etheron, I'll get into that later, some friendly Khersons descended from Furfire to meet them. Despite their friendliness, however, they were captured by the brainwashed Khersons and punished for their differing views. This explains the collar on the Bonekeeper's neck, and the difference in body between other Khersons. These Khersons, now Bonekeepers, were experimented on and sent back to the first floor as enforcers. Now, if you don't buy that Etheron's magic could somehow send Bonekeepers from the second floor to the first, the easy answer is that Bonekeepers are just Khersons with the parasite. I'll let you decide which one you believe. Escape the clutches of the first floor and defeat Chaser, and you're presented with a dilemma. Either escape back to the first layer with the help of Claris, or delve further into the second layer. Of course, in this video, we'll be exploring the enemies you encounter when you do decide to delve further, and breach the second floor of Layer 2. The first enemy I'll be discussing is the Kiersguard. The Kiersguard are standard Khersons, the most versatile and standard enemy you'll be encountering on the second floor. As 4 of the 5 unique enemies found within the second floor are Khersons, I think it's fitting to run over the nature of Khersons and the fate that befalls them. Khersons are a species that hold human-like intelligence and craftsmanship. They're also native to the second floor of Layer 2, proving that it is possible to settle in the depths, albeit if your body is suited to it. Regardless, the Khersons, while being able to settle in the second floor with no resistance, were burdened with an incredibly important task, for there is another creature living alongside the Khersons, below them but also above them simultaneously, suffocating them from all angles with its influence. This creature is the drowned god Etheron. Obviously, we know that waking a drowned god spells the end for the world as we know it, hence the Khersons were keeping Etheron fast asleep with the help of a ritual involving time dilation. This ritual held up for literal eras, making sure Etheron was kept asleep and that the world was kept safe. Ironically enough, with intelligence comes hubris. Just like the humans in the world of Deepwoken, the Khersons also flew too close to the sun. We had the Cataclysm and the Tides, and they had, well, something that I'd argue is a lot worse. The Khersons, growing complacent, began to construct weapons by harnessing the energy from the sleeping Etheron. Look to the Khersieger for examples. However, this had unintended consequences. They woke Etheron. Well, a part of Etheron. In essence, you can't talk or have direct contact with the drowned god, you just cease to exist. Therefore, drowned gods need proxies to have contact with mortals. The Scion of Etheron is that proxy, and it's this proxy that we fight to escape Layer 2, but I digress. When the Scion of Etheron was awoken by the folly of the Khersons, it essentially took hold of the Khersons' mind through some sort of weird mist. This is why the Khersons on the first floor of Layer 2 are passive and friendly. They're far away from the mist and its mind control. However, the Khersons of the second floor were not so lucky, and they reconstructed their entire society to worship Etheron rather than to contain him. So now we're familiar with the lore behind the Kherson species. I'll run through the variants of Kherson enemies we can encounter throughout the floor quickly, as there's not much individual lore divided between them. The Khersguard are simply just regular Khersons. The Khersons are capable of wielding Frostdraw, and trust me when I say you'll be receiving a lot of Frostdraw projectiles to the face on your first floor too. Lord knows that's what happened to me at least. Members of the Khersguard will simply opt to throw frozen spears your way. Next up are the Kherson Brutes. These guys, for some reason, seemingly can't manipulate Frostdraw like the standard Kherson. However, they're built like the Hulk in return, and will tear you a new one if they manage to grab you. That's about all I can say about them. Big Kherson hit very hard. It's possible that Etheron's magic has mutated them so that their fighting force has some variation, as giving up achievements for pure muscle feels like a very intentional choice, rather than evolution. Moving on, let's address the elephant in the room. If you're completing the second floor, you'll have to activate a series of obelisks, beacons, so you can defeat the Scion of Etheron and put the drowned god back to sleep. However, when you activate the beacon in the sewers, you'll suddenly be attacked by Kherson brutes that can't walk. However, in return for moving like prime Stephen Hawking, they wield a murmur. A murmur! We can see this in evolved creatures like the Alpha Sharko, making it obvious that humans aren't the only ones that can use a murmur. Once again, we're moving further down the line of changes here. Either the Cursons treat the Curson Crawlers like they're a red-headed stepchild, or Etheron is swapping out characteristics to specialize the fighting force his scion is manning. It's possible that because Etheron is still sleeping, it can't outright spawn in a bunch of specialized Cursons to help. Hence, because the scion is wielding a fraction of Etheron's power, it's gotta make do with what it has. And that about covers all the Kirsten enemies. There's the sniper too, but the Kirsten sniper is literally just a dignified health pack with one move. There's no lore here. Even I have my limits. However, there is one more enemy we have to discuss before this video ends. The Lost Divers. Finally, the humanoid enemy to discuss. You may be wondering how divers got into the second floor, as Chase was meant to have killed them all back up in the first floor, but it's actually not that hard to believe. In case you didn't know, there's a passageway in the caverns of the first floor, wherein you can just skip Chaser and head straight to the second floor. These divers could have simply gotten lost in the caves and taken this passageway after completing the puzzle. Regardless, they didn't make it very far. They're a walking example that Kirsens aren't the only thing that Etheron's mist consumes, as they've been driven into servitude by the Scion's mist. They're at the very least somewhat aware of their predicament, as they'll beg you for help in between their prayers to Etheron. If you're going to take one thing away from this video, let it be this. The hubris that once cost humanity our numbers and our land lives on in the divers. It's exploration at the cost of human sacrifice. Mass human sacrifice. Kalia, the Adret training to be a diver as part of the Charisma Uncap quest, couldn't even deal with mudskippers. These are the kind of people that are getting sent down to the depths. They're marked for death. In the first layer, the monsters will tear them apart. If you somehow manage to survive the monsters, you'll be recruited to delve deeper and investigate the second layer. The second layer's first floor is a Venus flytrap. It's a hotbed for suffering and desecration. Parasites and horrors beyond your comprehension will strike you down and puppeteer your corpse. However, if you somehow overcome the evils before you despite your status as a lowly diver, you'll delve deeper into the depths, unable to defeat Chaser. What's your reward for escaping the horrors of the first floor? Lifelong servitude to Etheron. There's no path to freedom here. When you die, you won't die quickly. You may not even die at all. I was wrong about the divers, you're not marked for death. Instead, being a diver means you give up your body, your mind, and your individuality for mindless exploration and discovery. Lay down your body and eventually, enough will pile up for your superiors to walk over. Feed the depths, like all divers should. Thank you for enduring this video. It's taken a whole lot of effort. I don't think I really wrote a compilation of theories like this before, and I hope you receive it well. I have a lot in store, especially now that I've breached the official content creator requirements. God, that means a lot to me. You have no idea. Thank you. And with those words out the way, that's me done for now. Thank you for your time, thank you for your patience, and stay well, stay blessed as always. See you when I see you. Guess I'm a celebrity now, or something like that. Sounds fucking stupid.